Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Tesla's average selling price has been increasing continually. It's the opposite of everyone else's models and forecasts, where they have Teslas reduce in price to increase the demand. The thing is, the demand is increasing whilst Tesla are raising prices. Tesla is breaking the most fundamental element of economic theory, supply and demand. The thing is, not only have Tesla continued to raise prices on what some regard as an already expensive vehicle, one of the other major things though is the compact, or $25,000 Tesla. Even I was under the impression that this was going to be the mass-selling vehicle. I mean, it was kind of the way we were told the direction of the company. It was mainly thought that the compact Tesla would be the main Robotaxi. We thought this vehicle would be $25,000, and when you do the economics, it works out that it's cheaper to own than taking a bus. Everyone was going to be able to afford this vehicle. We expected it could have been as high as potentially even 50% of passenger vehicle sales from Tesla. Except there was a low price tag, and to get the vehicle priced that low, it would also sacrifice profits immensely. I mean, of course the profits will be lower with a lower priced vehicle, but the margins would also be lower as it gets really tough to hit such a low price point. In other words, this car would not only dramatically reduce Tesla's ASP, it would also heavily affect the overall margin. Just think about how difficult it is to make an electric car that small at lower cost. When you make the same electronic item smaller, then usually it actually becomes more expensive. In other words, it's going to be so much effort to try and cram in all the same technology as a Model 3 into a smaller compact version. This would create massive complexity. It would be a real challenge to create a Tesla compact. Yes, sure, BYD have the Dolphin. Still not in volume production, by the way. Not sure if any of those listeners are still with me who told me that they would have been selling all across Europe by now. But Tesla don't make Dolphins, they make Teslas. Teslas have to hit much higher standards, especially when it comes to safety. Remember, one of the other main objectives with Tesla is the reduction in driving fatalities. Safety is a major concern to Elon. He's trying to save lives. The sheer physics of a smaller car is just never going to be as safe as a larger car. This would add more to cost and complexity, along with more complications on the production line, which is what matters the most. How fast these cars can be produced in the first place, especially if this was to be the biggest selling vehicle in history, of which we may have expected it to be just that. But what does it matter though? Tesla will have reached supply for the Model 3 and Model Y, and then they can move on to the compact model and generate all the demand they need in the world, as almost anyone can afford this $25,000 electric car. Except by this stage, well, Tesla may have already gotten the Model 3 down to about $35,000, adjusted for inflation. Now, even if the compact did start at $25,000, you can imagine it might be fairly basic for that price, and most people might end up spending a bit extra and taking it to $30,000. I mean, we're practically at the same price point here anyway now with the 3 and the compact. Most people who can afford a $30,000 car can probably find a way of affording $35,000, especially if they're coming from an ICE vehicle and saving a fortune in running costs. A $35,000 Model 3 would still have some decent margin when compared to a $25,000 compact. It would also be cannibalizing a far more profitable vehicle that is already at an affordable price. Tesla didn't realize they were going to get this much demand just from the Model Y. They thought they needed to get something very low cost out to the masses. Tesla no longer have to think about offering a low cost car to help the transition. Their current cars are more popular than they can keep up with as it is. The lower cost option for now will simply be Robotaxis. I mean, I say low cost as if the compact would instantly cost less to make than a Model 3, but I doubt that would even be the case. Tesla has spent years and years refining the production process for the Model 3 and all other associated economies of scale with this vehicle, and the Model Y too. It would take a long time and a lot of investment to get the cost of a compact down to even the cost of a Model 3, and by the time they would have achieved that, then the Model 3 cost would have reduced again. And actually, all these resources used in building the compact could have instead been used in reducing the cost of the Model 3. So in reality, it becomes even longer to get the cost of the compact down to the cost of a 3. So there is a massive opportunity cost in resources trying to get an electric vehicle at such low cost. The endgame of vehicles for Tesla is Robotaxis anyway. A Model 3 or Y actually makes for a better Robotaxi. I'll do some updated Robotaxi figures soon, as I think it needs to be rethought, especially since Tesla are pivoting and showing more conviction in their confidence of achieving FSD. But Tesla needs to get as many Robotaxis out as possible. Tesla are battery constrained, so it could be argued that a compact version may free up more batteries due to it being smaller, but perhaps a compact Tesla has less application available for Robotaxis. It would be less comfortable, of course less safe, and would add to complexity of there being additional models available in the Robotaxi network. Okay, fine, enough reasons to explain why it makes sense for Tesla not to offer a lower cost model at least not anytime soon. And if Tesla ever offer a compact, I don't expect it to be the model that has the highest volume in production. I think that is going to be the Model Y and Model 3, purely for robotaxis. But this means that so many projections are wrong. In fact, everyone's I've seen, I think all of them have their ASPs reducing significantly in the expectation of some lower cost vehicle, or they just don't seem to get their heads around the fact that Tesla doesn't need to lower the selling price to get the demand you think. They just need to lower the cost of ownership. All Tesla need to do to increase demand is explain to consumers how much a Tesla actually does cost to own, and then offer new alternatives to financing. Perhaps finance the car over 10 years, thus reducing the payments to be more in line with the amount you would spend each month at the gas pump. I mean, I would say it is likely that the prices of Teslas will reduce, but it's possible they may not. They could increase and keep increasing because they are so valuable, so very, very valuable, and perhaps just about an order of magnitude more valuable if they have FSD or can enter a robotaxi network. There do not seem to be any reasons yet for Tesla to actually lower prices or offer more affordable models. The demand for Teslas still appears to be growing more than the supply. The free market has the ability to alter pricing in order to control demand. I'm not sure these prices will come down, but possibly some lower cost models like a standard range plus Model Y within time. And instead, Tesla can just add more and more value to each car. The more value Tesla adds, then the more the demand increases. FSD is obviously the main one we're talking about, which also continues to increase in price along with the vehicles. This means that everyone's, and I mean everyone's, price targets, forecasts, projections, and valuations for Tesla are simply wrong. They are all doing models on Tesla's vehicles reducing in price, which does make sense, as it's axiomatic to assume to get more demand, you need to lower prices. Except Tesla doesn't seem to even follow a traditional supply and demand curve. It is something totally unique and unprecedented. Even ARK, for their bull case in just 2025, has Tesla's ASP down as low as $36,000. I mean, in case you didn't know, that entire price target is an abomination and shows that ARK has certainly lost their ways, which is a shame, as Cathie Wood was a great spokesperson for Tesla. But the craziest part is that whilst these prices are increasing, the costs are decreasing, at least all adjusted for inflation. And Tesla's costs are definitely dropping more, relative to the equivalent competition anyway. I'm pretty sure FSD will come into fruition, whether it takes 2 more years or 5 more years. And when it does, then obviously adoption percentage will increase. The price will increase and there'll be no more deferred revenue, probably adding a further $15,000 to $20,000 gross profit per vehicle sold, compared to just about $1,000 extra added onto each vehicle now. That's a massive increase too. Therefore, it's highly possible that ASPs will be quite a bit higher in the future, and this all goes straight into gross profit. Perhaps we should do some financials and see what happens if Tesla can continue to raise prices whilst also raising demand. This sure feels like a good company to be invested in. We just need to make sure that Tesla really can make as many batteries as they say. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.